Hi friends, today is the day. Today I'm talking all about my makeup brushes. This video is for the person that requested it and for anybody else that has been curious about how I store my makeup brushes and just kind of how I use my overall collection of brushes. This is not going to be a review about specific brushes, so if you're looking for that, be sure to check my channel. I do have a review of some of these brands already, and I'll be working over time in the coming weeks and months on getting additional reviews up for my other brands. So, be patient with me. If you don't see a brand yet, be sure to request it down in the comment section so I can work on that sooner rather than later. And yeah, so if you're interested in hearing all about my makeup brushes, just keep watching. We're getting into it now. If you happen to be new here, hi, I'm Michelle, and I talk a lot about makeup and nail polish here on my channel. So I had somebody comment on one of my videos asking to share how I store and, how I keep up with my makeup brushes and how I store them and use them so that they can try to figure out, what to do with their collection that is starting to get a little bit bigger and overwhelming. And I'll admit, I have a lot of brushes. I do wash my brushes kind of often, but I have a lot of brushes so that I don't have to wash my brushes as regularly. And that leads me to, let's start off with, why do I even have so many makeup brushes? Okay, you might see I have a carousel of brushes here. I have a container of brushes here. I have brushes over here. I've got my fude brushes here. I've got brushes everywhere. It's not even all of them, okay? I have this container here that is half full of brushes. Most of the brushes in this bag, okay, so the brushes that I have separated away in this bag here are mainly, well, they're all, not mainly, synthetic brushes from a variety of like my more affordable brands. And just, all the brushes that I've accumulated over time. And these are the ones that I use the least. So I have my brushes kind of separated into my faves and not faves. And just because something is in a not fave category, meaning just because I have it stashed away in this basket here, like in this bag here, doesn't mean that I don't use the brush. It just means it's not a go-to. It's not one of my most reached for brushes, but sometimes, or on some random occasion, I might feel the need for a brush that I have in this pile, and that's okay. I mean, these are my brushes. They're tools that I have here to utilize. But I found that when I had all of my brushes out and accessible at one time, I did start to feel very overwhelmed. And this doesn't even include, let me, hold on. All right. Figured I should come clean. Here's a few more dirty brushes that I had. Here's a few dirty brushes that I also had in my vanity section. Let me close this window. All right. Here's a few more brushes that I had over in my bathroom where I was putting makeup on most recently, like the other day. Okay. So this stash that you're seeing doesn't even include my next rotation of new brushes. These are all brand new brushes that I need to wash before I can utilize them. I do recommend washing your brushes when they're brand new. Okay, because, these are going through a factory or however they're being manufactured. And especially your fude brushes, they're not like put together in a factory. They're put together by hand, but It's my understanding that the fibers are coated like in some sort of a powder of some sort to help separate the fibers when they're being put together as a brush and being bundled. So like these products are not spick and span, sanitary, fresh, clean, you know? So it always grosses me out a little bit when I watch somebody putting a fresh brush out of the plastic, whether it's fude or not, or synthetic, doesn't matter. Whether it's fude or synthetic, when they just pull it out of plastic and go straight in to use it, like, ugh, gross, okay? That'd be like using silverware straight out of the box from the store. Literally, that's what it's like. Actually, the silverware might even be a little cleaner. I'm not sure. Anyways, I digress. So as you see, I have those piles of new brushes that I need to wash before I can even use them, okay? But I just haven't felt the need to tear into them just yet because as it is, I have a lot of brushes out. I like to keep my brushes separated basically from my fude and my most faves. I could keep all my natural hair brushes separated. These are my eyeshadow natural hair brushes that I use, like my daily workhorses, and then these are my face brushes that I use. Okay, I do have a container here of my refer brushes. These are all my refer face brushes that I don't like to use. They shed. These are a regret. I'm not going to sell them because like if I travel and I want to travel with fude, these are probably the ones that I would take. No, because look, I even see all these brushes hanging out of them, like all the bristles up. I hate these brushes because they shed so much for me. I do have a video about these specifically. I'll link that up here in the eye if you missed it. If you're curious on hearing my thoughts on my particular refer collection, always take my opinion, anybody's opinion, with a grain of salt. Okay? Anyway. Everybody has a different experience, you know, make up your own mind for yourself, etc., etc. Anyhow, so I like to keep my favorite brands separated by brand. So these are my BK Beauty brushes. I currently have even my eye brushes in here, and that's because I was going to do a video on my BK Beauty brushes for the Mother's Day sale, but I wasn't able to get that up. So, you know, I'll be doing a BK Beauty brush video in the coming weeks. But yeah, so I have all my eye brushes mixed with my face brushes, which I don't normally like to do that because even though I do like to separate my brushes by brand sometimes, like for my BK Beauty brushes I like to keep my eye brushes in a separate container and then have my face brushes separately so that I'm just not rifling through every brush to try to get like let's say my small little eye brush, you know? And I mean, it's enough to go through a pile of all the eye brushes. If you saw how many eye brushes I have, because I did buy some duplicates, and then like a lot of the eye brush sets that have come out, I've purchased them. So anyway, for my most two favorite brands, I like to keep those separately. And by brands, I mean like my fude and then my BK Beauty. Okay. And I like to use just like a mug especially because they have the handle that you can easily carry it with so that you don't drop your brushes, you know, it just gives a little bit added security. But sometimes I don't like the mugs because they take up a little bit of extra space on the counter. You can't just like face it any direction because the mug handle is going to hit. So sometimes that's a con for me, but whereas this is a planter. This is like a miniature pot for a plant, but I'm using it for a brush holder because I really like the color. For these ones that don't have a handle, sometimes they're hard for me to grip, especially just depending on, you know, if I'm having any like flare-ups or any kind of an issue. So sometimes I have more ability than other times. Anyway, I currently have all of my dirty brushes in here. Not all, but like the next big pile of dirty brushes that I need to wash is right here. So I like to keep one big stash of dirty brushes, and then when that gets full, I know to wash that chunk. And when that gets full, that will leave me with like a lot of less favorite, but still decent enough to use brushes back here in this carousel. So the brushes that I keep The brushes that I keep in here, like say my random brands of synthetic face brushes, like I've got Flower Beauty, Lancome, ABH, It, Morphe, Sigma, you know, I've got a lot of different brushes here for my face. And then I was going to talk about my Morphe brushes at one time, but I didn't, and it's pointless now. But, so I just have them separate, you know, in this little thing. And then here for the eye brush section, these are decent brushes. They're not as soft on my eye as some of them are, like as some of my favorites. And some of them are too soft, like the Nabla brushes. Some of them are a little bit too soft. But, and like this brush from Spectrum, like I don't really like this very much. But in a pinch, like if all of my brushes that I prefer over these are dirty at that time, then I can still get by with a look with these other brushes, you know? And here I currently have my more favored Real Techniques brushes in here. I have a whole pile of tons of other Real Techniques brushes that are still good, and I will still use them sometimes, but like I don't need every brush out, and it's less favorite than maybe one that I have here or whatever. So, you know, I just try to pare them down, and I don't want to get rid of them because, well, first of all, different brushes provide different results with different products. And just because I don't like a brush with some products doesn't mean that I'm not going to like that brush and prefer that brush with another product in the future. So since I already have it, you know, rather than to donate it or get rid of it, because I did already donate a lot of sets to different people, and I gave a bunch of brushes away. So honestly, I gave away probably about 100 brushes. And this isn't even all of the sets. I have like a Luxie brush set back here and a Pure X Barbie set that, but like I don't use those anymore. The Luxie set was my very first like set that I bought all myself. And like I liked it, but I liked the JH Morphe brushes a little bit more, except for the natural haired ones. Those were scratchy. So anyways, as I would get from one set to the next and I had, you know, new brushes, I ended up liking them over others. So they just naturally started shaking themselves out into tier levels of my favorites. And so that's just kind of how I kept them separated, is the brushes that I am washing the most frequently and reaching for the most, the ones that I find myself looking through the piles to grab that specific brush, whether it be a face brush, whether it be an eye brush, whether it be a high-end brush or a drugstore brush, that doesn't matter. What matters to me is how the brush washes, how it wears, how it functions, and the softness and durability of it. So whereas at one point my BK Beauty brushes were my top faves and I really raved about them a lot, now I've started experiencing quality issues with them. So although I like them, I hesitate to rave about them as much anymore. And like, I don't want my brushes to fall apart. So I, you know, tried to find other better, more reliable brushes in the same tier category. And so that's just how I ended up with such a large collection. And if you saw my recent haul of all the brushes, you'll know that I still have a ton of brand new brushes that I haven't even used or opened yet. And I'm really excited to check some of these out, especially like this new bronzer brush from It. I almost picked up the bronzer brush during the Sephora sale, the new bronzer brush they released. But literally after this, like I had to go on a brush no buy, because I was on a low buy before that, and I still bought like a bunch of brushes. And so yeah, that leads me to, I'm now on a no buy. Literally right after I announced my no buy, the day after I publicly announced my no buy, Singe Beauty brushes came out. And so that was literally the end of March. It's now April, May. We're almost 2 months later. It's like 6 weeks later. It's been 6 weeks now since that brand launched, and since I've gone on my brush no-buy, and I can say that I've stuck to my no-buy so far. I'm not sure how long I'm going to go for this no-buy, especially because, well, I want those brushes. But I don't need them, as you can see, but I need to at least just go through my brushes first and use them before I can even justify whether or not I'm going to buy another set ever again. Because Lord knows I don't need another brush. But if it offers anything different and unique to my collection, then, you know, I can consider that an asset to my collection and a tool that will provide me a different function. So I'm probably going to end up buying those brushes. But anyway, let me now just briefly talk about some of the storage options. Okay, wait. Some of the brush storage options that I have. And I will say, I don't know if you're like me, but sometimes what I liked at one point, I don't like at other times, and I just grow tired of it. Or just as the natural flow of me grabbing brushes and slowly emptying out a container as they all get used up, and then washing them and redistributing them, just through that natural process right there, my brush storage setup changes a lot. I mean, it changes from month to month, but essentially I go through the same repertoire of how I store my brushes. And so just depending on if I've got them categorized in that particular time as all one brand, then maybe I'll put them all in one singular cup like this. Maybe I'll use an acrylic that has multiple dividers so that I can distinguish between my fluffy, my smaller face, and like my eye brushes, you know, or it just depends. And also just depending on which category of brushes it is that I'm working with. Are we talking about like my most faves? My most faves tend to all fit in one container because I try to really narrow those down to like a full week of putting on makeup at least 4 or 5 times and not having to get more brushes. So that's how many brushes I need personally in my first round, like my first draft pick. And then like when this is half full and I have gone through several days of my favorite brushes, then that's when I start reaching into some of my backups. So the way that I store my brushes just changes. And I do like to try to keep my fude brushes in a dust-free container, but oftentimes I utilize them so frequently that I don't have time to mess with snapping something closed or not, you know? And so I'll just like pick it up from one day to the next and blow anything that might be settled on it off, you know? Now, right now, since it's been literally over 3 weeks since I wore makeup, yesterday was the first day that I put on a face in 3 weeks, over 3 weeks. Yeah, so because of that, like, I feel like I can see some dust settled on top of my brushes. And so I would feel more comfortable, like, cleaning them off before I utilize the ones that I have dust on or whatever. But I need to do a big sesh of washing some brushes. I have had a request to do a video on how I wash my brushes. So as soon as I get some of these other things out of the way, I will work on that. I haven't been able to get that filmed yet. I have a lot of my house in a transitional flow, like, you know, rearranging and like reorganizing and paint, like we're going to paint and new carpet, and like we just have a lot going on. And we're also working on the backyard and, you know, like redoing our dog fence and expanding the, like we're putting in a whole back patio. So I have a lot going on like in my life, aside from any like health struggles that I might have as well. And aside from just being a mom and a dog mom too. So yeah, I haven't even had, literally, I have like not even focused on my business, on my own little business that I've been like starting and building. Like I've just kind of lost interest in that for the time being, which is fine. You know, I'm totally okay with that. So yeah, anyways, I've just been kind of busy with other things. And yeah, so I do have a mental note. Like I do have a running log in my head of your video requests. So I'm sorry I'm sorry that it's taken me a while to get to some of these requests, but I do appreciate your comments and questions and your video requests in the comments. So be sure to keep them coming, and I'll do my best to stay in touch with you there, and yeah, and to have new content flowing. So I hope this video was helpful or informative in any kind of way. Let me know if you want a more detailed video actually showing you all of my brushes one by one and telling you what it is that I use them for, or if you would rather me break that down just by, you know, like brush brands like I have started to do. I'd love to hear from you. I'd like to know what it is that you prefer. So be sure to comment down below and I will chat with you there. So yeah, thanks so much for watching. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed. Make sure you're subscribed, and I'll catch you in my next video.